Hello everyone, and welcome to the Ultimate Archer Class Guide. This video, we will be going over the updated approach to the Archer class, discussing multiple stages of gameplay from early to end game, and all of the new items since Floor 7. So, be sure to hop in, and enjoy the Archer video. Before we start the video, be sure to subscribe, as we are approaching 3,000 subscribers. If we can get 3,000 subs by the end of the year, that would be amazing. Also, don't forget to like the video and join my Discord, link in description. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Hope you enjoy. Like we do in all of my other class guides, let's first get into pets. There are many pets that can be used as an archer, but the most iconic one has to be the skeleton pet. The skeleton pet at level 100 gives crit chance, crit damage, an increase in arrow damage by 20%, which is tripled up to 60% while in dungeons, a combo ability where you get a combo stack for every bow hit, granting plus 3 strength, maximum 20 stacks or 60 strength. Stacks appear after 8 seconds. And the last ability, skeletal defense. Your skeleton shoots an arrow dealing 60 times your crit damage when a mob gets close to you, 15-second cooldown. This is an amazing pet for early game, as the epic variant is extremely cheap, and the only thing you're missing is your skeletal defense ability, which honestly isn't that useful anyway. The main thing is the bone arrows, so picking up this pet is be really good for early game and mid game archers. Another pet you could go for is the Wither Skeleton. This gives a death touch ability to help kill those mini bosses or things with higher health. It's also very useful for floor 7, but there are some other tankier pets that are definitely better for floor 7. Speaking of the tankier pets, the level 100 legendary Blue Whale is probably the best one out there for archer. Baby Yeti's better for berserker as it is a strength based build, but for archer you don't get a lot of strength. And so the Blue Whale is where it is. 200 health and plus 20% max health, as well as 3 defense per 20 max health. This is really good. With Archimedes, you get plus 20% maximum health, which means that blessings are even more effective on you, basically. The life blessing will be your best friend with this pet, and this, a lot of people use in floor 7. It's amazing for tanking and staying alive. If you're going to be using the Frozen Blaze Armor, which is an amazing option, you're definitely going to need the Blaze Pet, with a 40% upgrade to your Blaze Armor. This makes Blaze Armor the second best set in all of dungeons for both Berserker and Archer. You would be surprised, but the Griffin Pet is better than the Skeleton for Archer damage, with the legendary Constitution giving regen and strength, as well as tons of base stats. Look at that, you get strength, crit chance, intelligence, crit damage, and a bit of magic find too. Last but not least is the Ender Dragon. The Ender Dragon pet is obviously the most iconic pet in the game. It is the dragon pet, and it's really decent for archers. Not too much, but it can be used if you have it. Definitely go for a tier boosted one if you want it at all. Definitely not a true legendary one, as that's 400 million plus. Alright, so next up is weapons. Weapons are the key point of many classes, except for tank and healer, and they can be really unique, really cool, do a lot of damage or not so much damage. But 2 of the best really early game bows are found in the Bone collection. In Bone 7, you have the Hurricane Bow. This bow is actually pretty decent for its price. It's only a stack and a half of enchanted bone and a stack and a half of regular string, not even enchanted. This bow can be used to spam in early game dungeons and is actually really good. You'd be surprised by how good this is in floor 3 or below dungeons. The next weapon in Bone collection is in Bone 9, the Runan's Bow. This used to be known as the best bow in the game. The Runan's Bow cannot be dungeon upgraded, so it is a little bit on the weak side, but just like the Hurricane Bow, it's amazing for floors 3 and below. Its triple shot ability lets you spam multiple entities, and it has a really decent damage stat. The Machine Gun Bow dropped in low dungeon floors has a Catacombs requirement of 5, and is actually really good. As you can see, it has less damage than the Runan's Bow, however it is a dungeon item, so it will get multiple stacks of stats as you enter the dungeon. As you can see, I am Catacombs 26, and it nearly 3 times its stats while in dungeons. The Machine Gun Bow also has a very interesting item ability, Rapid Fire. Shoots 5 arrows per second for 8 seconds. Arrows deal 70% of what the weapon would normally deal. Cooldown 100 seconds. So this is triggered on a left click and can only be used in a dungeon. However, the interesting part about it is it doesn't only happen if you're holding the weapon. You can simply left click and then swap to your main weapon even if you don't use it, and you'll just get free spam arrows. So basically what this does, it just spams arrows out of your face, basically. So if you're not even holding the machine gun bow, you can switch to maybe your main bow that does more damage, and you'll still be auto-firing with the machine gun bow. The machine gun bow's ability can be used as a utility rather than a main weapon. You can use it, swap to your main weapon, and has a very special use during Phase 3 of the Necron boss fight, where damaging him at all slows him down. As your members scramble to complete the puzzles, one of your teammates can spam a machine gun bow and slow him down. Heading over to the Ophelia shop in the Dungeon Hub are 3 new bows. We have the Undead Bow, the Super Undead Bow, and the Death Bow. So the Undead Bow is alright. I'd say it's pretty good. It requires no completion or anything, and it costs 80,000 coins. It gives 80 base damage, and you deal double damage to undead monsters, which is pretty good. Next is the Super Undead Bow, requiring floor 3 completion and Catacombs 16. It has 220 damage and has the same ability of double damage to undead monsters. However, you also have a 25% chance to bounce to another target after it hits something in a ricochet effect. This costs 800,000 coins. The last bow, the Death Bow, requires floor 6 completion and Catacombs 28. It costs 5 million coins, has 300 damage, and the same abilities, except the second ability is twice as good. The Death Bow is actually one of the best arrow bows in the game. The next 2 bows are found in the Wither Essence Guide and are from floors 4 and 5. They are the Spirit Bow and the Last Breath. These are also some of the best arrow bows in the game. The Spirit Bow has really good base stats, as well as an undead monster's damage, as well as a weird spirit thing where if you're dead, you can do 8,000 damage with it. However, the Last Breath is the better option of the 2, has better base stats, and reduces the defense of the enemies you hit by 50, stacks up to 2 times. Both of these bows are pretty decent as a side weapon, and we'll get to the main weapon in a second. Before we get to the main attraction, another item that can be used is the Mosquito Bow, found in Spider Essence. The Mosquito Bow is actually really good. It's really, really strong. It used to be the best bow in the game, but it requires Catacombs level 30. It also requires quite a couple Spider Essence. This bow has really good stats, and basically acts like a regular bow, as well as having a little healing ability. The main attraction of the Archer class is the Bonemerang. The Bonemerang makes the class what it is today. It's ridiculously strong. Look at that. 320 base damage, 130 strength, and an item ability Swing. Throw the bone a short distance, dealing the damage an arrow would. Deals double damage when coming back, and pierces up to 10 foes. This is a throwable, mid-ranged item that basically makes it the best damaging class in the game. Alright, so here we are. We're going to demonstrate the Bonemerang. Here we have the Lovely Cleese Spiritual Recombobulated 5-star Soul Eater 3 Bonemerang, and it's really, really good. And it's also really, really interesting. So if we look at the item ability Swing, throw the bone a short distance, dealing the damage an arrow would. Deals double damage when coming back. Pierces up to 10 foes. So basically, when you right click, it makes a little flying bone and then replaces the thing with a gas tier just so you know you still have it. Like it's like a placeholder. And then it flies through the air. It damages mobs, right? It hits everything in its path. So right there, you see, we can kill 2 things. But if it hits a wall, it despawns and takes a bit to come back. However, if we throw it this way, then stand in the way, the double damage when coming back, as you can see right there, 215k. And from the front, it's what? 108. So that is double. So yeah. Also, if you have multiple of these, you can completely bypass like the sort of cooldown thing implemented and just swap through your hotbar, throwing them all at the same time. Alright, so I have borrowed the Lovely Cleese 4 bones this time, and we will showcase that you can in fact throw all of them by just keep swapping. It's actually really, really satisfying. And it makes a little bone noise every time you throw it, which is cool as well. So just throw them all, and then by the time that last one's gone, they should all be back. It's really, really overpowered. 4 is definitely the best, because I think 5 or 6 would probably be perfect. But it's way too expensive. In fact, the bones right now are like 4 times they normally are. And I think there's 2 reasons for that. One, Floor 7 came out, so everyone wants to actually play the game. And the other reason is because more floors are being released, and this is a Floor 4 item. No one's getting that many into the market. So they are going to be a little expensive right now, but it is literally the best Archer weapon in the game. Archer does not get lifesteal in any shape or form. So for tanking phases like in Floor 5 or Floor 6 Terracottas, you might need a melee weapon to help you survive. Found in the gold collection is the Cleaver set. Hyper Cleaver is probably the most affordable one. It requires floor 3 completion and Catacomb 16. I made a video on this a while back and you should check that out. Basically, it hits multiple things and that really helps you get lifesteal during the Terracotta phase or floor 5. Another weapon you might consider for lifesteal is the Flower of Truth, the most popular berserker weapon. And although you're not a berserker, it's still useful for the lifesteal that you can melee stuff with. Now onto armors. So, for the first couple of floors, definitely entrance, maybe floor 1, maybe floor 2, you basically can use any damaging set that works outside of dungeons, as you don't really need that many dungeons buffs. So, what works for that is Superior, maybe Strong Dragon, maybe just any damage set you already have, Monster Raider, Monster Hunter, any basic damage set that you already have can definitely be used for the first early floors. Heading into dungeon items, we have a few sets: Skeleton Grunt, Skeleton Soldier, Skeleton Master. So Skeleton Grunt has the lowest requirements and the lowest stats, then Skeleton Soldier, then Skeleton Master. All of these sets lack quite a bit of tankiness, but they can help you for early floors, as well as dealing tons of damage. If you're really lacking in effective health and need to get by, a heavy set unlocked at Catacombs level 2 can really be useful for those early floors. And super heavy can also be useful. Super heavy is a later unlock, as you can see right here, and it's actually pretty decent. It gives much more defense than regular heavy, but it does require a higher Catacombs level. Getting into a weird set is the neon green bouncy armor. It comes from the super skeletons and the super archer, with a full set bonus bouncing arrow. This is basically the same thing that those NPC bows from the Ophelia girl had, and basically they can just bounce arrows between targets. This isn't very useful, it's more just kind of funny. It's really weird, and I guess you could use it if you want. I don't really see a purpose, but it's there. A really good shining set for Archer is the Skeletor armor. Skeletor is obviously dropped from Skeletors on floor 3 and above, and it's really good. It gives decent effective health, it gives obviously a lot of crit damage already on there, and it has a set bonus that grants you permanent strength and crit damage every time you kill 10 Skeletors. I'm pretty sure this caps at 50 strength and 50 crit damage. An actually underrated set for archers is adaptive, especially the ones upgraded with Scarf's Flowers. Basically, in floors 5 and above, you can get these boss fragments, and basically the Watcher collects the previous boss's souls and puts them in the Blood Room, and they have the chance to drop their fragment. The fragments exist for Bonzo, Scarf, and Livid, and then the floor 6 giants also have their own type of fragment called Precursor Relics. Each of the different types of giants has their own, and those are used to upgrade the floor 7 items. But here we're focusing on the Scarf fragment. The Scarf fragment is used to upgrade Adaptive Armor and the Adaptive Blade, and it actually makes Adaptive Armor a really viable set. Archer also gets specific buffs, such as more crit chance and more crit damage. A very new set introduced in floor 7 is the Lord sets. There's one for Skeleton and one for Zombie. They basically have the exact same stats, except for some reason Skeleton Lord is by default 1 rarity higher, and it also gives different base stats. So Skeleton Lord gives crit chance and crit damage, whereas Zombie Lord gives strength. Skeleton Lord is very interesting as it gives you more stats per minute spent in the dungeon, and I want to see what that would be like, because I'm pretty sure the maximum time you can spend in a dungeon is 45 minutes and then it closes. So if you put this whole set on then waited 45 minutes, I'd like to see how good that is. One of the best sets for Archer and Berserker is Shadow Assassin. I myself play Berserker currently, and I've got full mythic recombobulated ancient Shadow Assassin. Shadow Assassin is an amazing set with better base stats than Superior even outside of dungeons, as well as a set bonus that gives you strength permanently every time you kill a mob during a dungeon. So basically, you kill one thing, it doesn't matter what it is, you get a strength. So by the end of a dungeon, you'll have between 100 and 300 extra strength for free. This set is really good, as it gives just tons of great stats. One downside though is the Shadow Assassin chestplate is like 10 times more expensive than all the other pieces combined. So, I've got some solutions. There are a few chestplates that you can switch out the Shadow Assassin one for. Notably, the Zombie Knight chestplate, giving tons of defense, health, and strength. The epic one is pretty decent at 180,000 coins, but the legendary one is a little more expensive at 4 million. However, it definitely is worth it in my opinion, as 4 million compared to 30 million plus for the Shadow Assassin one really doesn't seem too bad. Using a Skeleton Master chestplate is also a good option. However, Skeleton Master lacks a lot of the effective health that the Zombie Knight one would bring you. However, if you feel like you're good on survivability, definitely take this one, as it'll increase your arrow damage by 5%, and also save you all your arrows, which doesn't seem to be a problem, but it's a nice little bonus. Additionally, you can also use the Adaptive Chestplate if you have that already. A popular setup using hybrid armor pieces is 3/4 Shadow Assassin and a Tarantula Helmet. The Tarantula Helmet requires Catacombs 26, and I recently got one myself for Berserker. The Tarantula Helmet costs a lot of Spider Essence, but it is worth it. However, it definitely does lack a lot of health and defense that the Shadow Assassin helmet would have. It does have a unique ability, Radioactive, +1 crit damage per 10 strength. This is far more useful for Berserkers than Archers, as Berserkers get tons of strength already. However, if you do want a little bit of extra damage and you're good on survivability, pick up a Tarantula Helmet. However, it does cancel a set bonus, so that's really up to you. The second best set in the entire game for Archers and Berserkers both is the Frozen Blaze set, 5-star upgraded with Ice Essence. It requires Catacombs 29, but is really, really good. You get 40 strength base per piece, defense, and speed, and the Blaze Pet upgrades basically all your stats by 40% while in there. So if you have the Blaze Armor and the Blaze Pet, paired together gives you an amazing amount of stats. I've heard people get over 1 million to 2 million effective health as an Archer, which is just ridiculous, as Archers are usually one of the most squishy units. The floor 7 items are no exception from the Archer setup. However, only one of them is of use. There are 3 sets in the game that are each using Precursor Relics and upgraded Wither Armor. So the Wither Armor is the stuff that's actually dropped from those chests, and using the Precursor Relics from the Giants in the Blood Room, you can upgrade it to one of 4 pathways. So, there are the Necron Armor, which is used with the Diamante's Handle from the Diamond Giant, and that's the one we're going to focus on for Archer and Berserker. There's also the Maxor Armor, which focuses on crit damage and speed, and that's from the Bigfoot Lasso from the Bigfoot. Then there is Goldor Armor, which is definitely focused more on tankiness and defense, and that is using the Pink Giant's Rock from the Jolly Pink Giant. And the last one is Storm Armor, which focuses on intelligence and health, and that is from the Laser Giant and the Laser's Eye. All of these represent a different part of the game, and those relics can also be used to form weapons. However, they're all swords, so we don't really care about them for Archer. But there is a Mage Staff one, there's a regular Berserker one, there's a Speed one, and there's a Defense one. All of those are pretty useful, but definitely none of them for Archers. To find the recipes for these sets, as they're not found in the recipe book, nor the Essence Upgrader, you can type View Recipe, then the type of the Wither, then Wither, and then the type of the piece. So for Necron Armor, the code word is Power, Wither, and then Piece. So we'll just say Chestplate. Viewing this, you can see the Necron's Chestplate. And like I said, it's with the Wither Chestplate, and then the Diamante's Handle. Diamante's Handle is the rarest, the most valuable, and obviously because Necron's the final boss, it's the best. These are really expensive, and on top of the extreme price of the Wither Armor itself, Necron Armor is ridiculously expensive. However, they've got rid of the Catacombs requirement on it, so all it requires is 1 floor 7 completion and you can use it. So, work your way towards getting this. This is your definite end game for now, until they release maybe Master Mode and maybe the new dungeons, but this is definitely the final thing we have yet. If you were curious about the other sets, you can replace the first word with one of the 4. So we got Power for Necron, Wise for Storm, Speed for Maxor, and last but not least, Tank for Goldor. Heading over to the Blacksmith NPC, let's get into Reforges. So the Reforges are going to be, you're going to want Fierce on your armor, definitely. That's definitely the first cheap one you're going to go for. Fierce is just really good for damage, really good for crit chance, and it's just the best one from the Blacksmith itself. However, getting into Reforged Stones, maybe for tankiness, you could get one of 3 options, and that's either Giant, Reinforced, or Perfect. Those 3 scale in difficulty to get, Reinforced being the easiest from the Rare Diamond. Then there is the Giant's Tooth, which gets the Giant Reforge, which focuses on health. And then the Diamond Atom from the Angry Archaeologist that gives a percentage of defense as well as a huge amount at the beginning. So all of these are used for effective health if you have really trouble surviving. And out of the three, I'd say Giant is probably the best, but you can pick whatever you want. If you don't need effective health and you're focusing all out on damage, the choices are Fierce, Ancient, or Renowned. Ancient is obviously the best. For talismans, you're looking at a very, very similar setup to Berserker, and I actually have a Berserker setup, so I can tell you. Shaded on common and uncommon and rare, and anything above that you're going to put on strong, so epics, legendaries, and mythics. This is really good mix of strength, crit damage, and defense from these strongs, and strong is not just for the defense on the higher tiers, but it actually gives more damage than shaded would, just because of how the Reforge table is laid out per rarities. For bow Reforges, 1 comes from the blacksmith and 2 come from Reforged stones. If we get my rune-ons to the one from the blacksmith, you can see that Unreal is definitely the best from the blacksmith. Unreal is basically a nerfed form of the next ones I'm going to show you, and it's really, really good. So as we can see, Unreal on Legendary gives 25 strength, 13 crit chance, and 50 crit damage. However, if we go to this Reforge Anvil, the next one is Optical Lens, giving the Precise Reforge. Precise has the exact same stats as Unreal with an added ability, the Precise bonus. As you can see if we scroll down here to the bottom, deal 10% extra damage when arrows hit the head of a mob. This is really laggy and really inconsistent, but if you really want just an added bonus, go for Precise. However, the best one in the game is the Spirit Stone's Spiritual. Not only does this have a cool ability, Spiritual grants a 10% chance to spawn a spirit decoy when you kill an enemy in a dungeon. It also just has better stats than the other two. 3 more strength and 5 more crit damage. So this is the endgame Reforge, Spiritual. You're going to want to put Spiritual on all your Bonemerangs if you have those, and using the strategy I showed you earlier, you're going to use 4 Bonemerangs with Spiritual, and you're just going to spam those. For enchantments for bows, basically you're going to want all the basic bow enchants: power, snipe, piercing, aiming, infinite quiver, cubism, and telekinesis. You can put flame if you really care about that, punch if you're scared of things and want to push them away, and there's one more enchant that we need to go over. Heading over to the auction house, we can see Overload, which is a new enchant from, I think, floor 5 or floor 6. It increases crit damage by 5% and crit chance by 5%, and has an ability to your weapon. Having a critical chance above 100% grants a chance to perform a mega critical hit, dealing 50% extra damage. So basically, this works in the way Ferocity does. If you have over 100% crit chance, let's say you have 102%. That means you have a 100% chance to crit and a 2% chance to mega crit, which will deal 50% more damage on that attack. This is really, really good, but it is on the expensive side. However, I do recommend putting this on at least most of your weapons. For ultimate enchants, there's only 3 really good ones. This is Swarm, which increases damage by a percentage for each enemy within 10 blocks, maximum 16 enemies, which doubles your damage. The next one is Rend, which was severely nerfed, but basically it makes your bow have a left click ability that rips arrows out of nearby enemies that you've already attacked, and deals 25% of your last critical hit. So if you hit something for a high amount, left click, and rip all the arrows from nearby enemies, you'll deal some extra damage. The best ultimate enchant for swords and bows at the current time is Soul Eater. Soul Eater makes your weapon gain a times amount of the strength of the latest monster you killed and puts it on your next hit. So basically, if you kill something that does a lot of damage, for example a Fells, a Withermancer, or maybe a mini-boss, your next attack will deal that much more damage. So, at Soul Eater 5, it's 10 times. So I don't actually know the numbers, no one does, but let's just say a Withermancer has 1,000 strength, which is probably overshooting. So if the Withermancer has 1,000 strength and you have Soul Eater 5 on the weapon you killed it with, you will deal 10,000 extra strength applied to your next hit. So it'll act temporarily as if you have 10,000 more strength. However, don't be fooled, this does not actually give you the strength and does not affect Baby Yeti or anything else like the Tarantula helmet. It simply temporarily applies it to your next attack. Thank you guys for making it this far into the video. Be sure to comment the word muffin if you made it this far to show people that you watched the whole thing. I hope that this guide was very helpful for you, especially for newer archers, and maybe some people that just wanted to know all the facts. And that's it for me. Thank you for watching.